Alrighty, UFC 294 in Abu Dhabi just wrapped up. My name is Jake Arrier. I'm here with my colleague Scott Fontana. Scott, Islam Makhachev just knocked out Alexander Volkanovski in the first round. First question that I have for you and we have to talk about is what does this emphatic win mean for Islam?
Well, it certainly closes the chapter with Alexander Volkanovski. I think we know that. That was mentioned on the broadcast as well. But realistically, what I took away most from that is that he has not just the ability to submit opponents of this elite level in championship fights, but he's also able to knock them out. He's got the power on the feet. We didn't know that he had that when he became the champion. We didn't know that he had the ability to actually execute it against this level of opponent. And sure enough, he did. I mean, we haven't seen Alexander Volkanovski in any sort of trouble quite like this on the feet before. And I mean, this was the trouble that ended it. So it was big trouble. And Islam Makhachev is also big trouble. He's going to be a force at 155 in a way that I don't think we thought before, and we should now.
Absolutely. And obviously, Volkanovski didn't get the result that he wanted. Do you think that there is going to be another chance for him to go up to 155 to try and get that belt? Or do you think maybe he sticks around at 145 and builds his legacy there?
I think he's actually gonna probably end up sticking around at 150 on 145, excuse me. If he's realistically, he's told me before he's not getting any younger. I think he really wants to cement his legacy at 145. I think that matters to him, and I think he's he's kind of cornered. He's not going to get that opportunity. 155 is a hard weight class to get one title shot in, let alone two. I don't know if there's a third while the same man is reigning. And I don't know if there's, I mean, maybe there's like an interesting fight for him along the way. Maybe there's something that makes a whole lot of money, but I don't really see what it is short of Conor McGregor or something. And I mean, that's no one's putting any heat behind that. So I don't see it. I see him sticking at 145, but he still looks like the absolute man at 45. So there's no reason to think he can't continue to hold on to this belt any longer than he already has.
And I guess that's a great segue into my next question. What do you think is next for both of these fighters? Obviously, it's a little bit more panned out for Volkanovski, considering it looks like he's probably going to be fighting in January. But what are your thoughts on the future of these two guys?
Yeah, probably. I mean, they've been planning this January fight for a while. It seems like Volkanovski has had two. I mean, for the last 2 weeks, he's had basically two fights booked out for him, which is unheard of at the championship level. It seems like it's going to be Ilia Topuria. I would be surprised if it was not him. The only surprise would be at this point, is he going to get cleared in time 3 months from now to fight in January? I would think probably, but you never know. You never know what things can kind of get hung up. If he's got a concussion or something like that, that time will only tell with that kind of thing. But as for Islam, it sounds like Dana White was saying it's probably going to be Charles Oliveira. You got to go that way. But I would really be okay with them pivoting to Justin Gaethje if they had to. It's not fair to Charles Oliveira, who earned his shot, and he got an unfortunate cut in training, and that's what it is. But we're looking at a situation where I think either one is a great choice, but it's probably going to be Oliveira.
And now that was not the only big fight that happened, Volkanovski and Makhachev today. We also saw Kamaru Usman and Chimaev fight. There was a little bit of controversy as to the scoring of the fight. Not getting too deep into the weeds, but I know that you are very interested in MMA judging. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
Well, I'll give you a quick overview here is the fact that the reason why this ended up being scored a 10-8 on all three scorecards, and I think is a great score, is because they're looking for damage, dominance, and duration. Dominance would be kind of like an overwhelming of the opponent in the round. And I think we definitely have dominance and duration here, but we don't necessarily have damage. That's the one thing that you kind of see commissions in the United States pushing for. They want one of those D's, those three D words, to be damage. So the fact that they don't have it here was a little surprising that they went for the 10-8. But the rules allow it. It's perfectly fine. It was a very lopsided round. Kamaru Usman did almost nothing. Chimaev had a lot of success. It's a good 10-8 round. As for the other two rounds, interestingly enough, both rounds 2 and 3, Kamaru Usman wins the scorecard on 2 of 3 judges' cards. But because he didn't get it on all three cards, it ended up not being the draw. We only had a majority decision here when one judge, David Leatherby, had a draw. The other two, Derek Cleary and Vito Paolillo, they had it 29-27 for Chimaev. And I think it's fine. I if I scored a 10-8 in the first round, I'd have given it a draw too. I ended up actually giving the fight to Usman 29-28. But man, this was a competitive and interesting fight, and a weird fight too, right?
Being such a competitive fight, like you said, what do you think that we learned about Khamzat Chimaev in this fight? He's fought at 185 before, of course, but now it seems like 185 is his home. What do you think we learned about him?
I think we've learned that this is a fighter who is not going to be at his strongest after about 5 to 7 minutes. It's not that he can't hang. It's not that he can't keep it going. He doesn't drop off the face of the earth, but very different fighter if you can weather the early storm. And we've seen against some of the most elite fighters that he's faced here against Kamaru Usman, and also previously against Usman's teammate and former opponent, Gilbert Burns. It's a much different fight if you can get past there. And if we're talking about it, he's going to have to fight 5 rounds if he fights for a title, which it seems like is next for him. Man, I don't know. It's a new wrinkle into somebody who we thought of as kind of this overpowering force coming up the ranks, and now he's looking different. That does happen when you get to the upper ranks of the divisions, but we'll see. I think that's something that if he's able to iron it out somehow, I mean, shoot, he's still got immense talent. You saw how he manhandled Usman in the first round, and Usman is, I mean, they were ostensibly the same weight class for a little while. I think probably Chimaev's bigger now, right?
Mm-hmm. No, absolutely. He came out like a bat out of hell, and I like what you said. I think that kind of does shed a little bit of light of like the boogeyman that he's like kind of become from those like first round finishes that he was getting, and now I guess we kind of have an idea as to why. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that first round against like top level competition going forward. But on that same note, as to these guys being at 185, what do you think about Usman finding a home at 185, or do you think that he sticks around at welterweight?
You know, I don't know how much he really wants to make the cut anymore. If he feels like there's not the opportunity at 170, and maybe there isn't while Leon Edwards is the champion. If something changes, maybe he says, maybe I've got an opportunity down there and I go back down. But I think he actually looks like he could settle in at middleweight. Middleweight it's not the deepest division right now. There's a lot of change going on. Obviously, we had Sean Strickland become the champion. We're not going to see Israel Adesanya for a little while, as per his willingly taking a little bit of a break, or who knows how much of a break from the sport. Derek Brunson is out. He just left the UFC, so there's some holes in the rankings here. I'd wonder where he would come in the rankings. Not that the UFC rankings, media-driven rankings, are that I would say bond when it comes to who's the best fighter, but it is what the UFC often uses. So I'm interested to see what he could do here. I don't think he'd be that far away from a title shot if he stuck around.